Hello and welcome to this talk about the chart of the new moon, which is going to occur on the 25th of June 2025, of course, and it's going to happen in Cancer. So you see on this chart here, I've circled around this conjunction, which is quite important. The sun and the moon conjunct form what we call the new moon. But Jupiter is next to it, which is not very often that it happens. And Jupiter represents the notion of expansion, evolution, progress. So if you're after something that's going to improve your life quite a lot, this day, the 25th of June, could be the one to choose, to decide and to perhaps move forward and step up a little bit on the ladder of your situation in your life, whatever the area may be, according to your life, but also according to your birth chart, naturally, because that conjunction occurs in Cancer, that's for sure, and that's for everyone, but it doesn't occur in the same house. And a house represents certain areas of life. And that's where actually this combination of energy is going to express itself and to be at your service. But this conjunction here is in discordance with this one, Saturn and Neptune. Saturn, reality, Neptune, the dream. Is your dream going to be met by reality? Meaning, are you going to be able to realize concretely an ideal type of situation? If you have an intuition about what needs to be done, perhaps it would be a good time to choose to actually obtain something that will be felt as a success, which is represented by Jupiter. But it may take a bit more time than what you expect or would like. Time is on your side. It is on your side from the moment you decide that it is on your side. Otherwise, time is going to put pressure on you, and it's going to be more difficult, to carry the load and to make sure that what you do is in accordance with your own philosophical approach to life and the reality of it as well. And those two need to somehow comply and collaborate. And that's what will make the difference. Now, between this conjunction here and this one, there is about 90 degrees. So 45 degrees, that's exactly in between. And that means that Venus, which is at 45 degrees or so of this conjunction here, Sun, Moon, Jupiter, and at 45 degrees or so of this conjunction Saturn, Neptune, plays the role of the referee. Venus decides which is right, which is wrong. Venus is love. So it seems that whatever the situation in your life and whatever you are striving to obtain and whatever time you will need to access to that summit that you want to reach, love will be the better guide. Love will be the best motivation. And even if it's not love as such, it is love in a certain way. Creativity can also come into play. So, express your creativity, express your feelings, because they will be heard, they will be appreciated by those around you. And Venus may make the difference, because if you are compassionate about something or someone, even though what you aspire to obtain is perhaps a little too far-fetched compared to what reality is on a daily basis in your life, well, if love comes into play, it will make it much easier for you to wait for your time, to wait for your turn. And once your turn arrives, then you can really take full advantage of it. Even though, once again, it may take more time than what you expect, what you would like. We cannot always obtain what we like, but we can obtain what we want if we are prepared to make the necessary effort and work to reach our goals. And that goal here is very important because the conjunction occurs in Cancer, which is the sign of the family. So it's your family, it's your home environment, it is perhaps your country or your region, your city. All that is represented by Cancer. So maybe it is in that area or one of those areas, or as well in an area where you feel that you can act and in which your action is going to make the difference. In that case, wait for the right moment to act. Don't act just because you feel like it. It won't be guaranteed to work if you do it this way. So you need to assess the situation and be very pragmatic, very rational about the whole thing. Otherwise, the emotions and the opportunism that we can show at times, according to the situations in which we are and what we desire to obtain. Desire is very important, and it may make the difference. Here we have a very nice link, which is what we call a trine with Vesta next to the black moon. And the black moon represents a dark zone. So this conjunction Sun, Moon, Jupiter allows us to shed light on that dark zone and to make sure that we understand what it is, that we know what it is, that we can then deal with it. And if that is sufficient, it will most probably awaken that potential to act and react in a much better way. And that is indicated by this link here with Mars. Action. Mars is the god of war. So it is indicating how much we can count on our ability to react and to defend ourselves or to combat for what we believe in, which should be the right belief in accordance with a notion of harmony and well-being that may stem from the energy of Vesta. And Vesta is there to show that we need to preserve harmony and well-being. If you do so, you won't feel destabilized by anything that may happen suddenly and unexpectedly. Unexpectedly would be represented by Uranus, and Uranus is on the verge of changing sign, which it will do in July. So early in July, Uranus is going to change sign to transit in Gemini for 7 years. And that will be the first time it occurs in 84 years. So it is a very important transit, which will have a key influence in 2026. And of course, as soon as the planet moves into Gemini, which is going to be on the 7th of July this year. Lucas is going to conduct a webinar about this phenomenon, And if you're interested to find out what this transit of Uranus can bring into your life and how you can, make the best use of the energy of Uranus in Gemini, then, enroll in this webinar. The link to enroll will be printed under this video. So that's globally what this period until the full moon, which will occur about 2 weeks later, is about. And the moon is going to carry on, of course, transiting around the zodiac, and it will reach, for example, Mercury. So Mercury is here at 0 degree and 39 minutes in Leo. The conjunction with the moon, which will arrive at the same longitude, creating an alignment with Mercury, from our point of view on Earth, will occur on the 27th of June at 7 in the morning. That's universal time, of course. So you see that Mercury is opposite Pluto. And there is a discordance here with Vesta and, of course, with the Black Moon. But there is a very nice link, which we call a trine, very potentially beneficial, with Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries. And there is another one with Uranus, which is actually yet not exactly a true aspect, but still very near to that, for sure. Well, Uranus is at 29 degrees and 32 minutes of the 30 degrees of that sign, Taurus. As I said before, it is on the 7th of July that this planet Uranus is going to enter in Gemini for the first time in 84 years. And if you're interested, once again, in the webinar that Lucas is going to conduct on the 28th of June, I think it is, 27th or 28th, on the weekend anyway, just, visit the website, ablas.ch, and you will find out all the information to enroll. And I will put a link under this video anyway, so that you can enroll straight away if you're interested. Because this transit of Uranus is a very important event, which will have a very important effect in 2026, but from the day it enters in Gemini, which will be, of course, the 7th of July, 2025. So Mercury, in harmony with Uranus, makes our ability to think, to use our brains. They are represented by Mercury, our neurons, and they need the energy of Uranus because Uranus represents the electrical chemical energy that the neuron needs to work, to connect with other neurons and so on. So the whole structure, our nervous system and our cognitive system as well, is, of course, under the influence of Mercury and Uranus as well. Uranus charges us with a certain amount of electricity that our body needs, even our heart needs to beat, properly. So this link is very interesting. It is going to last longer than the position of the moon, of course. The moon transits very fast around the zodiac, but Mercury is going to remain a bit longer in harmony with Uranus. So it will give us a few days when we will most probably feel and discover that we can do more. And intellectually, if you have something important to do, you will be much probably more efficient. Dealing with people, dealing with important businesses, and using your intellect, especially if you need to discuss important matters or whatever traveling as well, and discovering and connecting with other people, and perhaps also if you want to buy another computer, this day could be a good one to choose because of this configuration. But of course, as we've just seen before, Mercury is opposite Pluto, and there is a discordance here with this conjunction Vesta Black Moon. Very nice. We can't have it all. And there is also discordance with Chiron, which is also in discordance with Pluto, which could also be said to be in discordance with this conjunction here in Scorpio, Vesta Black Moon. So that means that although we may be much more efficient to deal with important matters thanks to our better brains, more or less, it still indicates that during this short period, while Mercury is still around the beginning of Leo, which is not going to last very long because the planet is very fast, it's going to remain, about 2 weeks in a sign. But still, during those 2 weeks, things can happen that may be disturbing. There is the idea of accepting to lose or to abandon. Pluto represents what needs to be somehow destroyed in order to rebuild in the place of what we've destroyed. So destruction and reconstruction means regeneration. It's like something's going to die. It's like the end of a cycle. We need to accept it. And if we do, we can move forward. Otherwise, we are stuck on a certain manner of thinking which may become quite dark, negative. And if that's the case, it may affect us physically, our health, our mental health, our physical health, or health in some area of our life. And there is something here around the black moon that shows that we don't know everything. So if you don't know, don't talk about it, don't think about it, or investigate to make sure that the information you receive is the right one. And that will be favored or maybe made possible thanks to this conjunction here, Saturn-Neptune, which is in harmony with Mercury. So taking time to obtain the best information is crucial because you can follow your intuition represented by Neptune and direct your life toward a goal or an objective that you may feel very strongly. It may also increase that spiritual connection with life that will help you deal with the reality of life, which is represented by Saturn. So that is a very positive configuration because on top of that, Uranus is also in harmony with Saturn and Neptune. And even though it's not yet a true aspect as such, it's still very strong. So Uranus represents change. Once again, there is something that you will need or want to change. And that is that change that holds the answer to your situation and perhaps to the crucial questions that you may be asking yourself or asking life for quite a while already. So there is a lot to expect from this 27th of June. And for the whole day, the energy is going to be strong. The moon will remain about 2.5 days in Leo, and after that, it will reach Mars. And this is what I'm going to talk to you about next. So the next transit of the moon is, of course, when it meets Mars. As you can see on the chart here, I've circled around this conjunction. It's in Virgo. 7 degrees and 13 minutes exactly. And that's going to occur on the 30th of June at 1 in the morning. Universal time. So if you live in the United States, for example, it will still be the 29th of June during the night. You see, this conjunction is quite harmonious. There is a positive link here with the Sun and Jupiter. And the Sun and Jupiter are cohabiting quite well. They're collaborating with one another. The Sun is life. It is the giver of life. And Jupiter allows for growth. So this conjunction is interesting because it indicates that we can progress. And it may affect much more, of course, people born under this sign, which is Cancer, because it occurs in this sign. But we all have something in Cancer, whether a planet, an element, or a house. And that's where this positive energy is going to act. It will deliver something very positive, very beneficial, if you act accordingly. And on that particular day and time, well, it's a bit early, but still, the energy is going to perdure for quite a while. Actually, the energy of the moon is going to be very strong as soon as it enters in Virgo. And here it is at 7 degrees, so that means that 14 hours before, approximately, the moon is in Virgo already. And already it has an influence on the energy of Mars. It triggers the energy of Mars. So it triggers our need to act and react in a positive manner, if possible. There is a discordance with Uranus, but it is a false aspect, and in my opinion, it's very wide for a false aspect. The reason I say it's a false aspect is because Taurus and Virgo are two earth signs, and fundamentally, signs belonging to the same element are, by definition, compatible and complementary. So that means that the false aspect may be actually considered as such, but be a positive one. So the change is represented by Uranus. And that energy of Mars may make the change quite drastic, maybe scary. Of course, any drastic change is destabilizing. But this configuration hides what and how much good the change can bring to you. Your mission, if I can call it that, will be to recognize the good that this change, represented by Uranus, may bring into your life. Because if you recognize it, you will act accordingly to make sure that it is the positive results, the positive repercussions that you receive, and not the contrary, of course. So it is an important configuration. And I like hidden aspects because they're always hiding something. So you may have a very beautiful aspect, but if it is a false aspect, it may hide something that is not as beautiful at all. But in this case, it is not such a beautiful aspect if you consider it from a purely astrological point of view. But it hides the positive energy flowing from Taurus to Virgo and vice versa. Two earth signs that will allow you to make the change concrete and to bring concrete positive results in your life that may last forever. Because once again, Uranus is a very slow planet, and this position and then the transit in Gemini is something that will not happen before the next 84 years. So think about it. and make sure that you take advantage of this configuration. Now, the other aspects with the Black Moon and Vesta, with the Sun and Jupiter, allow more positive action, more positive and quick reactions. Reflexes, good reflexes are represented by Mars. There are two inconjuncts, one with Pluto and the other one with Saturn, Neptune. That means hesitation. So our ability to act is better. We know it, we can feel it, we have even perhaps witnessed that we were much more efficient at reacting, better reflexes and so on. But we still don't trust ourselves enough to really accept what Pluto represents. Let go. Let go of what? I don't know. But there is some sort of sacrifice represented by Pluto. And accepting this sacrifice will lift the influence of the inconjunct, which is actually an ambiguous type of configuration. It indicates procrastination. So you know what needs to be done, you know what needs to be abandoned, destroyed perhaps, finished, but you will tell yourself, I'll have a look at it tomorrow. Fair enough, it's your choice. And the other one, with Saturn and Neptune, this one here, is of course also relevant of what dream and reality represent. Okay, we are all allowed to dream, to hope, and to have idealistic types of expectations from life. But we also need to be rational about that so that we can obtain rational, at least concrete results. So that's once again something that may bring about doubt. We doubt our own feelings and intuition or inspiration. And if that's the case, we won't act. We will wait and see. Fair enough. It's for you to choose. On the 1st of July, 2025, naturally, around 7 in the morning, the moon reaches the south lunar node in Virgo, here, at 22 degrees in this sign. And of course, it creates an opposition with the north lunar node. Now, the computer program, the application, has drawn an opposition with Saturn and Neptune. I wouldn't take it into consideration. It is a wide false aspect. And once again, because it is a false aspect, it is hiding something. And what is it hiding? Maybe it is hiding reality, or it is tempering your ability to dream, to perceive, to feel, and to make good use of your intuition or inspiration. And, well, that would be a shame, really, because in actual fact, this opposition represents a potential communication between both signs and what's in there. The north and south lunar node represents, for the south one, what we need to let go of, forget about. It's been long enough doing whatever it is, and your habits, and whatever you have become used to do, to accept, and so on. Now, the time has come to move forward. And if you want to move forward faster and in a lighter way, you need to make your existential vehicle, your life, lighter as well, because that will allow you to go farther using less energy. So think about that, because it will come into play on that particular day, as if you accept to let go of whatever it is in order to reach that north lunar node indicating the goal that you have, then you may be rewarded. Your effort and your decision may be rewarded. And it will be rewarded about 2 weeks later when the moon reaches the north lunar node. And that will be during the period between the full moon and the next following, new moon. So I won't talk about it in this particular video. Now, there is a very nice link here with Venus and Uranus. A change, once again. But there is something more to that. Because Venus is love, as you know. It is the goddess of love. Uranus is the god of the skies. And it is, in mythology, Venus's father. So father and daughter are meeting here. And they're meeting in the daughter's home, because Taurus is Venus's sign. So the link between Venus, Uranus, and the moon, and the south lunar node, and of course the north one as well, is quite interesting in the sense that it will most probably give us the potential compassionate approach to what needs to be abandoned. So we accept, and we make sure that whoever may be implicated or concerned will also accept. So we'll use compassion, love, and diplomacy as well, of course, to impose and to benefit from the change represented by Uranus. And it may be a very sentimental type of change. It may be a change in your sentimental life altogether, but it could also be a change that is governed or motivated by love or some sort of strong sentimental motivation. So yes, interesting. That will be on the 1st of July at 7 in the morning, and it will continue on having a strong influence until most probably the end of the day or near enough to the end of the day. Now, after that, the moon is going to trigger the energy of Saturn and Neptune as soon as it enters in Libra. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. On the 2nd of July, 2 in the morning, the moon reaches 1 degree 53 minutes in Libra. And across, you can see Saturn and Neptune at 1 degree and 50 odd minutes, 2 degrees for Neptune in Aries. That is an almost perfect opposition. So that's really when the energy, the combined energy of, or energies of Saturn and Neptune will be triggered. And they're triggered in a good way. As you can see, there's a lot of blue in this chart. And blue lines are good lines. They're indicating positive energy flows. The opposition is not. To me, the opposition triggers the energy of Saturn and Neptune, so it should not be considered as a difficult or discordance. No, it's not. And Saturn and Neptune are in harmony with Pluto, which is here at 3 degrees in Aquarius. And they're also in harmony with Uranus, although it is still a false aspect, hidden aspect, and in harmony with Mercury. And that is interesting. What I said about Mercury in a previous reading about the conjunction between the Moon and Mercury will take effect during this period when the Moon reaches the opposition with Saturn and Neptune. It will trigger something concrete in accordance with what you expect, what you dream about, what your ideal would be in some area of your life. There is something very positive coming your way if you recognize that it is so, and if you, of course, act accordingly. Now, the Moon is in harmony with Pluto, which enhances our regenerative principle. So we can regenerate much easier. If there is something to swallow, a bad news, for example, it will be much easier for us to digest it and then to regenerate and I would say use this positive energy to not lose our balance and keep in harmony with ourselves and with the other people or person concerned. There is also a nice link here with Venus and Uranus, even though it is a false aspect. A few hours before it was not. So it becomes very interesting to use your creativity, perhaps, but also your feelings to improve and change what you want to change, perhaps in your sentimental life, but at least in an area that corresponds to what you love, what is dear to you, or who is dear to you. It is very positive, but if we don't know about it, and if we're sleeping, and I mean it's 2 o'clock in the morning, most of us are going to be sleeping, but we may have that revealing dream that will help us when we wake up to deal with the situation and find the right answer suddenly, spontaneously, without even perhaps understanding where it comes from, but it may come from astral traveling. You know about astral traveling? I'm writing a book, well actually I'm translating at the moment in English, a book in French that I've written in 2007, I think it was, about astral travel and all the experiences that I went through and that I had, which have been extraordinary. And I've associated, of course, the technique of astrology to determine the best moments to do the exercises and try to astral travel. There is a lot to it, you know. If you're interested in this subject, read Robert Monroe's book about Journeys Out of the Body, I think it is called. That's the book that triggered in me the desire and the potential to actually do astral travel. Astral traveling is wonderful, really wonderful. There is no words to explain what we see, what we experience. When you astral travel, your ability to see is a lot different to what it is in awakened state. That's amplified maybe 100 times. Anyway, let's carry on with the next reading, which will, of course, have something to do with Chiron. It's on the 4th of July at 3 in the morning, universal time, that the moon creates an opposition with Chiron. Here is the moon at 26 degrees and 46 minutes in Libra, and here is Chiron at 26 degrees and 51 minutes in Aries. And there is also a discordance with Pluto, but it is a false aspect. Once again, I've talked about that already before. A false aspect or a hidden aspect, by definition, is hiding something. So it may be considered as a discordance, but somehow it is rather a positive configuration. So that means that if Chiron represents health, it could be health as such, but it can also be health in some area of your life, as I always repeat. It's very important to keep that in mind. Pluto represents what we will need to accept to abandon in order to avoid the expression of this configuration, which could be quite nocive or negative, and maybe also considered as a source of deterioration of our own physical energy. But if we accept that sacrifice, which may be a small sacrifice, it's like, for example, changing your feeding habits, because not knowing about what you eat, you may be eating the wrong food for many years, and suddenly you feel uncomfortable. There could be a health issue somewhere, and it may be resolved simply by accepting not to eat or drink whatever you've been appreciating for so many years. So it's a sacrifice, but it's a small sacrifice compared to what you are going to benefit from: a better health, and by extension, a better life. So on that day, 4th of July, it's 3 a.m, but work it out according to where you are, because that energy is going to last for about, maybe 7 hours after the opposition, because the moon will take about 7 hours to change sign and transit in Scorpio. But if you make sure that you accept this small sacrifice, you will derive a lot from the effort that you put in. Your health, and that maybe your health in a certain area of your life will be, of course, rewarded. So the next transit is when, of course, the moon reaches Vesta, then the black moon. Still on the 4th of July, at 2300 hours, which is 11 p.m., still universal time, of course. Well, the moon reaches Vesta, and a few hours later, which will be on the 5th of July actually, it will reach the black moon. So during this period, which will last about 12 hours, I would say, and maybe more if we consider the moment when the moon enters in Scorpio, which will begin to trigger the energy of Vesta and the black moon, and that will be about 12 hours before. So 12 hours before 2300 hours is 11 in the morning. So from 11 in the morning, universal time, once again, on the 4th of July, the moon begins to have a very strong influence, which is going to become more and more important as it progresses through the sign Scorpio. So make sure that on the 4th and 5th of July, you are aware of this transit, because the moon will shed some light on that dark zone. So there is something to discover. It may be destabilizing, it may be troubling, or it may seem to be so. But because of the beautiful links here with Jupiter and the Sun, what may be felt as a difficulty and something that is not very nice at all to deal with, and that will be represented by Pluto. Pluto really indicates that there is a sacrifice to accept, to make. And Mercury on the other side here, which is opposite Pluto, indicates that we may not be mentally ready for that sacrifice. But there is a carrot, you know. The carrot is represented by the Sun and Jupiter in harmony with the Moon, of course, on that particular day and time, but more especially in harmony with Vesta and the Black Moon. The Sun is light. Light as, you know, being able to see, not light compared to heavy, if you see what I mean. So if it is light, light is going to be shed on that dark zone. And on that day, because the Moon transits around there, it will also shed some light. It makes things quite emotional, really, but it makes things quite positive as well, and very promising. Promises of a better life are represented by this conjunction between Sun and Jupiter. They represent a potential opportunity, you know, to take advantage of. And you should do so on that particular day and time, or, you know, during the 4th and 5th of July, because it will counteract the energy of Pluto and Mercury. And where this opposition between Mercury and Pluto can make one quite dark, negative, you know, pessimistic, even nihilistic perhaps, Jupiter and the Sun make one quite opportunistic and very enthusiastic. So you may feel that you oscillate between both. But to avoid that, get rid of what needs to be gotten rid of. That is very important. Pluto represents that sacrifice, once again, that we will have to make. And if you're able to make it, and if in your head, you know, it is okay to make it, this sacrifice, then you will benefit from the energy of the Sun conjunct Jupiter, because that is a very strong configuration, very strong. And it's not so often that it occurs. So take advantage of it. And that will be my motto on that particular day. And either on the 4th or the 5th of July, I will definitely make sure that I take advantage of it, because that will also somehow protect my own health, and health as such, which, you know, is important, naturally. Mental health as well, that is not becoming crazy or anything like that, but it is, well, mental health to me is having a sick sort of mental outlook or consideration in life, which is wrong. So we all always need to be positive about what happens. That's my personal opinion, of course. On the 6th of July, in the evening, it's 9 p.m., 9 p.m. Universal Time, the Moon transiting at the very end in Scorpio creates an exact opposition with Uranus here. Venus is to be considered as well, but Venus now is in Gemini. So it has an influence, and will must probably have an influence, because on the 7th of July, the next day, Uranus changes sign to transit in Gemini. So the opposition will trigger the energy of change. And that can indicate a very interesting and unique event. It could be a strike of luck, sheer, pure luck. It can also be some event that will tend to change radically the way you deal with your own life. And it may have a very strong sentimental connotation or an artistic connotation. Creativity is represented by Venus, and when Venus and Uranus are close to one another, it triggers more creativity in artists, but in all of us, actually. Creation, procreation, they go together. So think about that and make sure that you take advantage of this type of configuration, because the moon will be in harmony with Pluto, even though it's still a hidden aspect when it is in Scorpio. As soon as it enters in Sagittarius, which is probably going to occur an hour after, so around 10 p.m., the moon begins to transit in Sagittarius, and then it is in harmony with Pluto. And it will be in harmony with Saturn and Neptune. So regeneration, construction, and the ideal situation. That is what you may be allowed to receive, and to obtain a very positive, concrete result according to what you want to change in your life and what you are prepared, more or less as well, to sacrifice in order to obtain what you want from life. Very important and a very, very interesting moment. Make sure that you take advantage of it. That's all I can say. And I will try and do my best to take advantage of it, if I can. It's on the 9th of July, 2025, of course, at 9 p.m. or around 9 p.m., that the moon in Capricorn creates an opposition with Jupiter. So it triggers the energy of Jupiter. That energy of Jupiter that I mentioned since the beginning of this reading of the chart of the new moon. Because as you remember, most probably, on that day when the new moon occurred, it was conjunct Jupiter. So it was promising something. Now, on the 9th of July, at about 9 p.m. Universal Time, when the moon triggers the energy of Jupiter, what does it trigger? It triggers the result. So if you've been able to take advantage of a very interesting opportunity, most probably you will thank yourself from having done so, because the results are going to be quite extraordinary. For some of us more than others, of course, as usual, but still good. There is that discordance with Saturn and Neptune that's still, operational. And it indicates to make sure, it's very important, to make sure that you take your time. Don't rush. And at the same time, don't imagine that because the opportunity is such extraordinary, you take your time to organize, even though you may swiftly take advantage of it, but then work on it and deal with it, taking your time and making sure that you follow your intuition, your inspiration, if it is a positive one. Because Saturn can make one quite pessimistic about potential results. So if you begin to doubt your own ability to obtain positive results, Saturn is going to amplify the pressure and make things more difficult for you. So you would actually not really benefit from what and how much good Jupiter has to offer. But the moon is in harmony with Vesta, which promises also a potential harmony in your life. So you will not threaten the notion of harmony and balance in your life if you use the energy of Jupiter in such a positive manner that the more perhaps skeptical or negative energy of Saturn is put aside, because that will most probably help you take advantage of this one here, which is extremely powerful. Because Jupiter represents success. So if that success in your life is something that you can actually assess and access, then you will. And the full moon that occurs next is also quite interesting because it is the moment when the energy is at strongest, and that's when actually you must prepare and begin that preparation, which is going to last for about 2 weeks before the following new moon. So let's have a look at the next configuration. It's on the 10th of July at 8:37 p.m. that the moon will be opposite the sun, creating what we call the full moon. The moon is here at 18 degrees and 50 minutes in Capricorn, and the sun is across, of course, at 18 degrees and 50 minutes in Cancer. So, thank you very much for your interest in my work and for watching this video and all the short ones. And I wish you all the very best. I thank you for your appreciation of what I do, which is, of course, my motivation to continue. And yes, take care and take advantage of all the nice configurations that occur and that will occur until this full moon, and after that as well, because Jupiter is going to remain in Cancer for about a year until the 30th of June next year. So I will talk about this planet over and over again in all the videos that I'll put online until it changes sign to transit in Leo, which is not going to be bad at all, actually. So that's it for now. Thank you once again. See you soon. And take care. Bye.